many of my clients come to me and they say, they're like, oh no, I don't need help with my resume. I already got it done. And it's like, how do you have a resume done and you don't even know the title of the role that you're going for? We're here talking about the 3 reasons why getting your resume done is a waste of time. It's a bit of an unpopular opinion that I have. And so before we get started on this topic, I do want to get just a gauge on the audience. Drop a 1 in the chat if you have had your resume done before and maybe didn't see results, and then drop a 2 in the chat if you are in process of considering getting your resume done. I just kind of want to see where the audience is in that whole process. And while you guys are doing that, I'll give a little bit of introduction. I'm Gerrie, for some of you if we've never met. I'm the very best at helping professionals in STEM careers articulate their value, land positions without applying online, and achieving their the best and highest salary ever. So that's what I do. My experience, I have about 17 years of engineering experience, and for the last 6 years, I've been managing engineering teams. So I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of candidates. I'm a professional at interviewing, which has also made me an expert at what candidates need to have on their resume, what they need to do during the interview, and overall how to prepare for their job search. Personally, I've never applied for a job online, so I utilize networking techniques, and I have mastered how to not be in the sea of hundreds and hundreds of applications, and how to cut through all that noise. I 5X'd my salary, so I'm a negotiation expert. And about a year ago, I started coaching professionals in STEM careers, how to accelerate their careers, and taking all the tools and tips that I've learned throughout my career and pouring into other people so that they can succeed. So that's a little bit about me. And why we're here today is because I mentioned that I've been coaching for about a year, and a lot of people that I encounter along the journey say to me that I got my resume done and nothing came of it, or I'm not ready for a career coach, I need to get my resume done first, or a whole lot of jargon around, that the resume is the end all be all, that is responsible for your job search, that is determining, the success of it, everything. And I really want to put that to rest. I created a post about your resume being a waste of time a couple weeks ago on LinkedIn, and over 500 people had something to say about it. So I knew we needed to continue the conversation. And so I thought this would be a perfect topic to go live with. So the number 1 reason why it can be a waste of time is that your resume is not the first step. A lot of people, when they realize that I'm in the market for a new job, or I don't like my opportunity, that I need to get my resume done, because the resume is the key to the job that I want. Now, the resume is certainly a part of the process, but it is not step 1. And the reason it's not step 1 is because when you set out to go get your resume done, or you find this professional resume writer and you're like, hey, I need my resume updated. If you haven't done the pre-work, which is identifying your target company, identifying your target role, figuring out how your past experience aligns to what you want to do in your future. If you have not done that work, the person who does your resume, they're going to make you sound like an excellent candidate for the job you have right now today. And that is not the goal, right? You're usually looking for something else, because if you're just trying to transition, say you're a project manager, if you're just trying to go from project manager to project manager, you don't need your resume redone, because you have the experience. You shouldn't have to do that much convincing to the person, receiving the resume. But if you're trying to go do something different, you have to do the background work required to make sure your profile presents in that manner before a professional writer can do anything with your resume. Most resume writers are writers, and without any strategy, if they don't have any window into the strategy, and it's not their fault, most times you don't have the window into the strategy. You haven't created it yet. it's impossible for them to give you a resume that's going to achieve your goal. And so I think that's the perspective and mindset shift that I want people to change around resumes. It's not just a shiny piece of paper that, you know, explains what you've been doing in very nice words and great sentences. That's not going to help you achieve what you want. So the action item and takeaway from that, and as I go through each of these steps, I'm going to have an actionable item. So once you enter into and you decided that I want a different role and I want to make some changes in where I'm working, you have to do the pre-work. You have to determine your target. Determine your target before you even think about touching the resume. And so I asked a question earlier, and it looks like we have quite a few people who, overwhelmingly majority of people said that they've had their resume done and have not seen results. And so feel free to let me know, did you do the pre-work, or were you kind of expecting that the resume writer would make it all make sense? I love to hear that from you guys, but it's good to confirm and see that like a lot of people have already been down that road, and then a couple of people said they're thinking about it. And so now you actually have the chance to do some of the pre-work. So that's my first point. My second reason why getting your resume done may be a waste of time is that sometimes getting your resume done is really just a cover up for you not being able to articulate your value. And you're hoping that this professional writer will be able to make your experience sound, you know, make you sound your best, make you sound like the best candidate for the job, because they're good with words and, you know, all of the things that writers are able to do. But again, a resume writer can make you sound great on paper, but once you get that phone screen, once you get in the interview, if you don't know how to articulate it, it's almost worse than having a bad resume to begin with. Because if you have this incredible resume and then you get in the interview and you can't speak to it at all, you can't, you know, without reading it line for line, you can't in a natural conversation speak to your experience and how you add value and how you're going to add value to this role in this company. Now the person is almost feeling like they were taken advantage of, like this person baited me, right? Like they put up this front and this is not who they actually are. So we don't want that at all. We don't want the resume to just be a cover up, you know, for things that I don't know how to say, don't know how to communicate, you know, maybe nervous to say. So I don't want people leaning on, you know, the resume as a crutch. They're like, if my resume is worded perfectly, like, no, I'm not gonna have to restate this. Nobody's gonna question me. No, they certainly are. And you need to live up to that. So if you know that you get this perfectly worded resume and you can't have that kind of conversation, you're really doing yourself a disservice. And so for me, you know, I've been managing teams the last 6 years, just to give you an example of what articulating your value is. I usually have three key things, or three key ways that I add value to any situation. So in terms of managing teams, my three things that I know off the top of my head, I bring order to chaos. So that means if there's a mess, I'm the one you need to hire to clean it up. I like, you know, deep diving through data, you know, team issues, whatever the issue is, I'm gonna bring order to chaos. I also build creative and productive teams. So that says to, you know, a hiring manager that if I'm having a team issue, if my team is not cohesive, if they're not meeting deadlines, if they don't work well together, Gerrie is gonna help me solve that problem. My third thing is I help engineers bring their best selves to work. So that says that I know how to motivate and coach the teams. It helps with attrition and things like that. So when I'm talking about articulating value, we're talking about how can I help them solve a problem? Not, you know, these ways to describe yourself, hard worker, you know, dedicated, you know, whatever words that may be true. But when someone is trying to determine if you're the person for the job, they need to know if you can help them solve their problems. period. That's all they care about. And unless you've given them, you know, some distinct ways that ways that you add value, things that you can bring to their organization, and you frame it in a way that solves their problem, then now they can you've removed yourself from trying to sell, from trying to convince, to now they're saying to themselves like, wow, Gerrie already understands our problems, and she's saying off the bat she can bring order to chaos. She can build the team. She can motivate the engineers. And now they're making their own determination that she's the person. And so your resume, it can't be as conversational, right? It can't say what I just, you know, it needs to be more formally stated. But you need to take the ways you add value and translate that into your resume. So I think the first step before trying to cover up the fact that you have not practiced, and I'm gonna be completely honest, it took me years, you know, it took a good 18 months for me to step back, look at, you know, what I had done, you know, over time, over the course of my career. What things do I actually enjoy doing? What things do I just do them well and flawlessly? What comes super easy to me? And those are the ways that I'm going to add value in any role, any capacity. So you don't have to change, you know, your value articulation for every role. Some things are simply natural to you. And so the action step before you go try to cover up the fact that you can't articulate your value is find where you are valuable and how you add value. And I said a whole lot. We got a lot of comments here on LinkedIn, so I'm gonna go through some of these and see if anybody had any questions. Yes, somebody, LinkedIn user is saying that they started doing the pre-work in the middle of getting their resume done and realized they booked a resume writer prematurely. Exactly, that is exactly what I'm saying. That somewhere along the lines, I don't know if it's, you know, from college, from, you know, wherever we started our journey with careers and getting jobs, the very first step was always said, go get your resume done. But nobody ever told you that, like, what's supposed to be on the resume? What story am I telling in the resume? You know, it was just, oh, just go put, you know, your responsibilities and things that you've done. And that probably may have worked in the past, but now we're in 2022 and the competition is fierce, right? You have to figure out a way to stand out, and just getting some random resume done, it's not gonna work. Companies are getting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of applications, and they all look the same. As a hiring manager, a person who's been on the other side, they all look the same. If I get 100 applications and they all have the same software skill set, they all have, you know, the same certifications, how am I supposed to choose who? You know, I can't bring them all in, but how am I supposed to choose who to call, you know, who to take to that next step? So I'm very glad to hear that you backtracked and now you have more confidence in how the resume is coming out. Great. Let's see, Kiana says she loves the way I'm explaining this. I get so focused on trying to make my resume get through the ATS that I get lost in the simple wording when it's time for an interview. I agree, that can definitely be a bit of a sidestep, because you do want to have, you know, the key words in the resume, but it still needs to speak to a human. Now this actually brings up a completely different point, because I don't believe in applying for jobs online for this very reason, because now you're trying to speak to a computer who's gonna sort through your resume and tell if you're the right person, but you need to be speaking to a human. So this is a bit of why, and that's a totally separate topic, but this is why I really don't think applying for jobs online is the best strategy. It's not, by far not the quickest, not the most efficient, but I can see how this can be a task. And as Kiana mentioned, you're so busy trying to speak computer language that if a human actually gets your resume, they are bored to tears, and they're like, you know, it's really a catch-22, because, you know, it makes all the resumes look the same, and as I said, it doesn't help on the other side. So there's definitely room for improvement there. Now I'm gonna go into point number 3, which is getting your resume done. It doesn't provide a transformation, and what I mean by that is exactly what Kiana just said. You go get your resume done, or maybe it's not Kiana, I'm sorry. Let me go back and see. Someone else, whoever mentioned that they had gotten their resume done. You get your resume done, And there's absolutely no change in your job search, in the interviews that you're getting, in the offers. It doesn't change a thing. And the only thing that has happened is that funds have transferred from your bank account to the resume writer's account. Like, that is the only transformation you've seen. And I really feel like it's my duty. And because so many of my clients come to me and they say, I've gotten my, they're like, oh no, I don't need help with my resume. I already got it done. And it's like, how do you have a resume done and you don't even know the title of the role that you're going for? Like, right, you thought you were doing the pre-work, but you were actually doing busy work, right? You were busy, you were in motion, but you weren't actually doing anything that was going to affect the outcome of, you know, you reaching your goal, you getting this new role, whether it's a promotion, whether it's changing companies, whether it's, you know, transitioning. You have to do those things first. And if you want to see a true transformation, you have to get some feedback. You have to talk to people who are in the roles that you're trying to get into. Talk to people at those companies. Talk to a career coach. Talk to a real person, not your mom, not your best friend, but someone who's in, you know, the professional career space of interviewing and hiring that can give you some real feedback. A lot of my clients that I talk to, people have been stuck in their job search for months because they're doing it all alone. You have no feedback. You don't know if what you're doing is working. You don't know if anyone ever heard you. I mean, it's just, you're going about this all on your own. You have no feedback. And another point I like to bring up is that when someone is dedicated to you in a coaching manner, it could be a mentor, right? It doesn't have to be a paid coach. It could just be someone who is experienced in that field. When they're dedicated to you and your growth, they can give you a very tailored and very specific solution to what you need. Because Google can only tell you what everybody needs, right? And even sometimes you go on YouTube and the solution doesn't exactly apply to you. So you're taking all of this information from all of these different areas and you're trying to tailor it to your specific situation, but you have no sounding board. You have no way of knowing, like, am I even making sense? Am I going about this the right way? So I think the action item from that, my third point of actually seeing a transformation, is you need to talk to somebody. You need to get some actionable feedback. Because if I keep submitting the same resume, you know, for hundreds of jobs and I haven't gotten a single hit and I haven't talked to anybody, I mean, there may be a glaring mistake on my resume that, because I'm looking at it day in, day out, I don't even see it. I mean, has anybody read and reread and reread again that email that you're about to send out, and then you hit send, and what happens as soon as you hit send? There's a typo in the first couple of words and you're like, I read this email a million times. So I think that's the same thing that happens with people in their job search. So when you're looking for a transformation, sometimes you have to get feedback outside of, you know, your own head, outside of your own eyes. You need someone to put a second set of eyes on it. Let me check. Instagram is saying your resume should reflect the job you want and not the job you've had. 100%. 100% that you need to be able to reflect where you want to go. And if you can't explain where you want to go, you've given the resume writer nothing to work with. And that's the reality, is that I'm not coming down on resume writers. They're great. They are great people. They are talented and all of that, but you got to give them something to work with. And as most of you guys have admitted, like, you've gone to them prematurely and now you're expecting them to work this miracle, and it just doesn't lead to the end result. So now that we understand, you know, what's going on, why I feel that way, and you guys have shared a little bit about your, because it used to be, you know, time consuming and costly and, you know, all the things, especially if you're flying people in and things like that, traveling. I think companies have found that efficiency that, like, I don't need to spend any money to tell if I want this person on my team. And even if they do bring you in for an interview, it's probably third or fourth round. It means it is literally just a formality, and that they already know they want you. They just want to meet you and for you to meet the team. So the answer is, I will always have a copy of my resume, because things happen. You know, you might be at the last minute. What if the interviewer gets changed out? You know, what if I've sat in on interviews before where I showed up and I literally didn't have the resume. So it's always helpful to have it on hand. You want to take all the guesswork out for the other person if you can. So you guys go ahead and drop me any other questions that you have while I just briefly talk about, so we know the problem is that either we contact the resume writers too soon before we've done our homework, and then, you know, they give us a resume that doesn't really lead to anything, or we're delaying our entire search because we think that we have to have this perfect resume. I have to find somebody to write it. I have to do all these things before I can even start my job search. And so if you are on either of these lives today, I do want to let you know that you can join me next Wednesday. I'm hosting a 2-hour workshop. It's titled Accelerating Your STEM Career. And we're going to be going over the 5 steps that you must complete before going after your next career opportunity. And so this will get in front of wasting time waiting on the resume, wasting time trying to find somebody to help with it, putting the wrong things on the resume, spending a lot of time coming up with a resume that doesn't even lead to where you want to go. We're going to be going over those 5 steps before you join. It's going to be a live interactive, live Q&A with me, hot seat coaching. I can even do some resume reviews. There will be an opportunity for you to present your questions and we can answer them live. But we're going to be going over those 5 steps that you need to do before pursuing your next career opportunity. And the summary of those steps, as you walk away, you're going to learn how to stand out from other job candidates, how to accelerate your career, and then how to also prevent, you know, putting in 200 or 300 job applications. So how to get the attention of the humans who can move you to the front of the line, because that's what I believe. I have never applied for a job online, and I believe that has worked out so well for me because the recruiters are inundated. So anything you can do to make the life of the recruiter easier, that's what you want to do. Now you're their friend, and now you're at the front of the line, and you're probably going to get the job. So we're going to be going over those 3 things. And my call is next Wednesday. The workshop, it's Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern. I want you to do me a favor and drop a workshop, workshop in the chat. If you want to hear more information about it, I'll go ahead and shoot you a DM. So that you can have direct access to register and get your seat. And that's it for me today. I'm gonna do one more check for questions. Let me check to see if anyone else has any questions on either platform. I'll go ahead and give you guys a chance to drop workshop in the chat. And let's see, I'm doing the pre-work and reaching out to people. What is the best way to reach out to a recruiter that grabs their attention? The best way to reach out to a recruiter, I actually have an entire script about that because it is an art to getting their attention. But just quickly, what I'll say is have a attention grabbing title, a title that they care about. Not hello, right? They get a lot of messages that just say hello, and people are busy. And you know, when you're busy and something is not very clear, if it's not clear, especially for me, if it's not clear to me how I can help this person, I'm probably gonna keep reading, because I've got like so many things grabbing my attention, right? I've got email, I've got coaching clients, I've got Instagram, I've got LinkedIn, like I've got all these things grabbing my attention. If you're just trying to say hello, right? Like I tell myself, oh, I'll get to those later. I'll get to those next week. So you have to have a title that gets their attention, and then jump right into how you're connected to them or something that you have in common with them. And then your next point is asking directly for what you want. Do not try to have a casual conversation with a recruiter. They don't have time. They have hundreds of messages and hundreds of, resumes to get through. I don't want to say that I want to get to know you, but they want to get to know you if you can help solve their problem. Their problem is that they're looking for somebody to fill this role. If you can help them solve their problem, they want to talk to you. So those are my 3 keys to getting the attention of recruiters. And I know some people are hesitant to even reaching out to them. You have to think about it like this. It is their job to find talent. So don't ever feel bad about reaching out to them and asking and saying, hey, I'm the person that you're looking for. They want that. They want that. They want it if the message is clear and concise and you actually are the person. So I'm not saying go waste people's time. When you reach out to a recruiter, you gotta know. You gotta know that if she calls me, she's gonna know that I'm the person also. Okay, let me look at just a few more questions because we're coming up on time and I really wanna respect everybody who joined. Thank you so much for sharing your lunchtime with me. So the 3 points about articulating your value, I definitely think you need to weave those points into your tell me about yourself. You might not get all 3 in, but I do think in the first several minutes of talking to you, the person should be able to understand what problem can this person help me solve. If you're not explaining how you can solve a problem in the tell me about yourself, they have already stopped listening. The interview is over. And I might be being a little abrupt, but as they say, first impressions are everything. If you don't get the person's attention in the first 5 minutes, you may have, severely decreased your chances of getting it back, right? Because it's almost like, when you're watching a TV show and it's not very good and you start scrolling on your phone, that's essentially what's happening, when you don't get the interviewer's attention in the first 5 minutes. They're there with you physically, but their mind is wandering. They may or may not even be listening. So you got to get that out. I want to talk to you, even if you have pink font on your resume, if you got and so April on LinkedIn is a recruiter and she's validating that she does want to talk to people. And she doesn't care if you have pink font on your resume. But if you can solve her problem, she's going to speak to you. She's going to go out of her way and say, hey girl, let's chat. Let's see. Anybody else? I think that's all of our questions. All right, guys, we're going to end here. Talk soon. Bye.